I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are talking about a sensational book that's more like a series of books because it's a collection of short stories. It is called Hardhead City. It is written by Calvin Kerr. It is an absolute delight. You'll want to savor each one of these stories. They are that interesting. We'd like to thank Calvin for being here today, and we'd like to thank the folks at Sweet Spire Literature Management for helping put Calvin in the spotlight today. Calvin, thank you so much for joining us here on Spotlight.
And I thank you very much, Logan, for having me.
My pleasure. Loved Hardhead City. It's what, like 8 short stories, correct?
Yes, sir. It is a short stories.
Now, out of those 8, do you have a favorite?
I would say Hardhead City, the feature
Hence the
story.
name of the book, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell the folks at home a little bit about the story Hardhead City.
Well, Hardhead City is a story about an Army instructor in Baltimore City. The school he taught at was an alternative school.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it was like a second chance for the students. Being an Army drill sergeant and going to a school of that nature, I was prepared to tackle the different situations that the students presented and the school to begin with. It was
Absolutely.
resistant at times. However, my disciplinary tool was like the push up, and also I would not let them, I didn't want them to fail. In other words,
Right.
I wanted them to do something with their lives and always have to stress to them, you're in Baltimore City, you got to understand the environment is different.
Mm.
You have to kind of change their way of thinking. Matter of fact, I used to tell them, it's okay to love someone. It's okay to like someone.
Mm. Good advice. You got to tell people in such a tough city that it's okay to be a little soft sometimes, that it's good to have a good heart.
Yes. And it was, like I said, in the first beginning of when I started teaching, they resisted me.
Mm.
They were, I mean, I just had to just keep using my disciplinary tool until they got to the point where he is not going to back down. I ran them a mile or two. I did all the things that built their bodies. As I stated before, there was some resistance, but when they start feeling good, the body feels good, and they start feeling good about themselves. I used to take them to leadership weekends, take them to events such as, when you go to the the parks, the different recreational parks,
Mm.
such, you know, any of the different recreational parks. And together I made them be battle buddies so they
Right.
can. And normally when I took them to a recreational park, such as, I can't think of the one that I normally would take them to. Oh, Great Adventure or something, some parks
Mhm.
such as that nature. And they would go with a county school, and I would put a county school student with a city school student.
Mm.
But the kids in the county was more stable, I'll put it that way. So they learned from each other. I made them battle buddies. Like they would sleep on, at the top bunk and one would sleep at the bottom bunk. And they would battle buddies. Whenever that person is, I want to see you with him, you know. And they learn to get along.
Wonderful. Sounds like you were a wonderful teacher. So this book is inspired by your real life experiences.
Yes, sir. Let me
Wonderful.
just go over a few of those experiences real
Sure.
quick. Okay, the first title was Black Mondays.
Mhm.
That short story takes place in Memphis. When I was in Memphis, I had a chance to see or to watch the shooting of Martin Luther King. So in our high school, that was our little rebellious way of getting back at the shooting of Martin Luther King. We called it Black Monday, so we would boycott the schools on Mondays. The next story would be Chained to the Porch. This lady told me her story about how her father practically had his daughters chained to the porch. It was like just he would beat them for going out or doing things of that nature.
Mm.
I'm going to go on because I just want to hit on a short purview of the stories that I want to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah. The next one was Whose Life Is It Anyway? When I was a drill sergeant down in Fort McClellan, Alabama, it was a female soldier that she just gave up. And I had worked so hard to get her in condition to succeed, but she didn't want it. She had a chance to finish the cycle, but she didn't want it and she just quit. So what I said to her, why go back to Mississippi? Mississippi is one of the poorest states in the Union. Why would you want to go back to Mississippi when I'm giving you a chance to get in the Army? And from there, you could go to college, and there's a lot of different things that you could do with your life. But she didn't want it. But it's more to the story than her. It's more of the people that wanted it, and it's just a true story about a basic training drill sergeant trying to train privates.
Right.
Okay, the next one I will talk about is Hardhead City. I talked about that already, from in Baltimore. Let me go on. The next one will be Two Dans. It's two brothers with the same name, split family situation. It was hard. You were living in one family, and then your mother leaves, and a whole new family comes along from nowhere that you didn't even know about, brothers and sisters that you didn't know about. That one is called Two Dans. Three Hearts in a Car is when I ran identical inside the prison in Fort Leavenworth. The inmate that I pretty much talk about all of them, but the one specific inmate, I said, why did you do this to this young man to get put into the prison at Leavenworth? I mean, some crazy stuff that people shouldn't do to each other. He said, because he was a punk. I said, when you make somebody do something to you like that, what do you think you are? And now you stuck in a prison for doing something that was not just inhumane to me.
Absolutely.
So that was, and I had to make sure that he understood. You're locked up. Do you understand? You're locked up for doing something foolish.
Yeah.
And the last story is Who's Loving Katie. That is a sad story about a daughter and her father, and it's just criminality of what he did to his daughter.
Mm.
Escape from Panama is when I was in Panama, I was an infantry scout in the jungles, and also I trained people. However, when you got people coming from New York City or Chicago, at the time they were into like drugs, and Panama was a city that was famous for cocaine.
Mm.
So they would be this. So in this story, they had locked the guy up. He got away some kind of way, and he escaped from Panama because of the drug cartel that they had in Panama, and that was something that it's more to the story than just the drugs and the things of that nature. I'm just giving you
Sure. No, you've given us a
those stories.
brief overview of all of the stories, and they all sound wonderful. They all are wonderful. You've had quite a life. You've done many, many different things. You've lived in a lot of different places. You've had many different roles in life. It seems like the common thread, though, is you're usually trying to empower people. You're usually trying to help people.
Yes, sir. Some of the different things that I've done in my life, I was the first sergeant in the Army. Matter of fact, I was in the sergeant major slot when I retired, but that's another story.
Mhm.
I was on the DMC in Korea. I was only like maybe 21 years old, in charge of N113, messing with those North Koreans on the DMC in
Mm.
those trenches on the DMC.
Yeah.
Another thing, I was a basketball coach at the same school down in Baltimore City, where I went undefeated, coaching the same kids I was talking about as
Mm.
far as the junior ROTC program. I made them strong. you know,
Yeah.
they became more cohesive together after I finished, kind of structuring their lives a little bit. And when I left, going to me senior high school, those kids cried. I never thought they would cry, you know, because they wanted me to stay. The girls, are you gonna leave us? Stuff like that.
Mhm.
So another
Wonderful.
thing that I was a track commander, machine gunner, cavalry scout, infantryman. I mean, it was just so many things that I can't even think about some of the other stuff I did. Plus, I was a registered dental hygienist, bachelor's degree in business. I mean, it's just so many different things that God has gave me
Yeah.
to just prevail. I mean, I was in spots that I would never thought that I would make it out of.
Yeah. Yeah. But
You know,
God gave you a lot because God knew you were going to do a lot. I mean, I think every opportunity you were given, you tried to empower the people around you. You tried to show them a better way. You tried to show them a way out. You tried to get them to get straight with their lives. And I think that is so noble that you always work to do that, sir.
it's just that I always say, if you're going to do something, try to be the best at
Mm,
what you do. I was not even didn't even have the rank in some of the positions I was put in. People were working for me that outranked me,
yeah.
but they would put me in those positions. And I said, put that guy, he has more rank than me. Put him in charge. Dumb. I said, well, you shouldn't promote them. My thing is coming from an infantry guy to being an RDH and doing different things, schooling and everything, training, so much training
Right.
that it's groomed me. And I'm not a very,
Mhm.
very guy, I say, type of guy that is so strong and I'm not a strong guy, I thought. But when I'm
I,
put in a situation, it seems like it just bring my strength out.
I think you're spiritually strong, and I think you've got a lot of resolve. And I think those are two things that help you excel as a leader. And it seems like you've been a leader your whole life. Tell me why you decided to put these down in a series of short stories.
Because I feel that if I wrote a book, it may take, some people don't like to read
Yeah.
for a long time. So if I put short stories, they can read one short story, put it
Yeah,
down, and come back and read another. And
exactly.
that was my idea, that if people come to me and after they know that I write short stories, they tell me their stories. Matter of fact, before we go off this air, I have to show you my second book. It's
Whoa.
called Can I Get a Light?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
This,
What's your
this,
other book?
this Can I Get a Light? It
Oh,
has
okay.
9 short stories, just a few of the titles. The Raider Who Loved America. That whole story is a metaphor. The second one is Dead Letter, about a German woman's story.
Mhm.
The third one is Jeremiah's dad. Brother, Can I Get a Light? That's a feature story.
Yeah.
The Crack in the Mirror Image is another story. The Lucky One, The Coon Who Sat, The OA, and My Friend Tommy. And every one of these stories are different in its own right. But I want to tell
Wonderful.
you, let me just share this one story.
Sure.
My friend Tommy was one of my soldiers. He was Caucasian.
Mhm.
He didn't have a real father, but he was always under my wing. You know, he would do everything I tell him to do. He was a complete soldier, and I was proud of him. And I don't want to give it away,
Right,
but
right. No, don't give
something
it away.
tragic,
But
yeah, something tragic happened, and I was just it just tore me apart when I
I'm
found out,
sure. I'm
when I
sure.
left him. But anyway, do you
Well,
have
I'm
any
glad you
more?
put these stories down into books. They're wonderful books. Hardhead City is available on Amazon. You can download it or buy the physical copy. It's highly recommended. It's a series of 8 short stories, and it's very convenient. You can read one story, put it down, pick it up, read the next story, particularly in this distracted age in which we live, where people are pulled by their computer, by their phone, by their wives, by whatever it is. There's lots of distractions out there. So make sure you distract yourself in a good way. Read about a life that has been very well spent, very well lived, and dedicated to humankind. It is called Hardhead City. It is written by a magnificent man by the name of Calvin Kerr, and it's been a true delight to speak with him here today on Spotlight. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
And I thank you for having me. And I'm sorry about all the stumbling that I went through while
You
I was
weren't
presenting
stumbling, you were
myself.
great. And I appreciate everything you told us. All the information is wonderful, and I'm sure very much appreciated by our viewers. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.